Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
The views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Attorney Man Scarpio, the husband of Vice President Sara Duterte, is set to file criminal complaints against several officials over the alleged disclosure of bank records.
Authorities still have no confirmed information on the whereabouts of former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldico, even as a delegation is already in Prague.
The Office of the Ombudsman is seeking a precautionary whole departure order against Senator Cheese Escudero.
And U.S. President Donald Trump was suddenly evacuated from an event after a shooting incident broke out in Washington, D.C.
First in the news, the Sandigan Bayan will hear today the Office of the Ombudsman's request for a precautionary whole departure order against Senator Cheese Escudero and businessman Maynard Ngu. For the details, we have mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos. Arles, go ahead.
Angela at Diego, nagsimula na nga yung pagdinig ng 6th Division ng Sandigan Bayan para sa hiling ng Office of the Ombudsman na pagbawalan na makaalis ng bansa si dating Senate President at ngayon Senador Cheese Escudero, maging ang negosyanteng bagman nito na umano'y si Maynard Ngu, na kaugnay pa rin yan sa mga investigasyon ng flood control projects ng pamahalaan. 7 buwan yan, wala nang madawit si Escudero at Ngu nang banggitin ni dating DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo sa pagharap nito sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing. Lumalabas ka din Angela at Diego, na ito umanong si Maynard Ngu na nagsilbi umanong bagman ni Escudero ay kalapit na kaibigan nito ni Bernardo at nangingi ito ng listahan para sa mga flood control projects ng pamahalaan na maaari umanong maipasok sa pangalan ni dating Senate President Cheese Escudero. At niya ay nag-deliver siya ng nasa 160 million, bahagi yan, 20% ng 800 million pesos na mga proyekto na inaipasok sa 2025 GAA. Pero mauna-una nang itinanggi ni Escudero ang mga naging alegasyon na ito.
Okay, Arles, kasi alam naman natin na so far as we speak, wala pa naman talagang kaso na isinasampa laban kila Escudero. Ano daw yung magiging parang basis nitong precautionary whole departure order, if ever?
Tama ka, Angela, wala pang ang kumpirmadong kaso na naihahain kanila Escudero at Ngu, pero ayon sa Office of the Ombudsman ay posible nga itong maharap sa mga kasong graft, plunder at indirect bribery kaugnay ng flood control scandal ng pamahalaan. At actually, Angela, halos kaparehas yung paggalaw nito doon sa nangyari kay dating House Speaker Martin Romualdez na mga pangalan nga na nangingibabaw dito sa mga umano'y may kinalaman sa flood control scandal ng ating pamahalaan. So ang nais ng Ombudsman, at least Angela, ay wag itong makalabas ng bansa at maharap dito yung mga investigasyon at yung posibleng pag-aresto sa kanya kung aabot man doon kaugnay ng mga kaso at reklamo nakakaharapin ito. Naniniwala kasi ang Ombudsman, Angela, sa mga previous pronouncement ni Ombudsman Boying Rimulya na mas madiin at malalim yung kanilang pagsilip sa paper trails at kung paano nga ba gumalaw yung mga pera na iniuugnay nga kay Escudero at kay Ngu.
Klaruhin ko lang ulit for the benefit also, Arles, of our viewers. Has anybody on the camp of Senator Escudero commented on this issue, him or his lawyer or anybody?
Diego, mula muna tayo doon sa mga alegasyon ni Bernardo. Nauna nang itinanggi ni Senador Cheese Escudero ang mga alegasyon na ito at aniya, ito daw ay baka pag-atake lamang para sirain ang kanyang pangalan o maging ang Senado. Pero particular dito sa precautionary whole departure order ay hinihintay pa natin kung ano ang kanyang reaksyon at tugon at posisyon dito. Pero sa ngayon ay wala pa namang nailalabas na utos ang Sandigan Bayan dito, pero pwede natin asahan na magkakaroon ito sa bago matapos ang araw na ito.
Well, for the benefit also ng ating mga viewers, ano ba yung pagkakaiba ng precautionary whole departure order versus the whole departure order itself?
Angela, yung precautionary whole departure order ay para mapigilan yung sinumang mga individual na wala pang kaso pero nahaharap sa mga investigasyon at posibleng makasuhan kaugnay ng ilang mga kaso o paglabag sa ating batas. Habang yung whole departure order, ito talaga yung may mga kaso na at posibleng makasama sila sa mga listahan ng mga ng ating Bureau of Immigration na bawal talagang makalabas ng bansa. No? So yung precautionary whole departure order, Angela, ay pwede ring i-appeal, no? At least kahit yung whole departure order, no? Pero yung precautionary whole departure order nakafocus lamang doon sa wala pang kaso at nais ngang maharap yung mga investigasyon dito at makumpleto ng mga otoridad yung isinasagawang investigasyon dito. Pero yung whole departure order talagang may utos na at may kaso na at pagbabawalan na itong makapaglipat-lipat at makalabas ng bansa.
If Arles, if may kaso na si Senator Chis Escudero, no, ano yung pinakamabigat dun sa kaso na walang bail?
Parang nakikita natin dito, Diego, yung plunder, no? Bukod dyan, pwede rin ma-disqualify from running into public office at syempre yung sintensya ng pagkakakulong. No? Pero again, paglilinaw, wala pang kaso si Escudero at ang umunoy bagman nito na negosyanteng si Maynard Ngo at aabangan natin kung kailan ihahain ng Sandigan Bayan ng Ombudsman ang kanilang mga reklamo.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, bukod kila Senator Chis Escudero, meron pa ba tayong nakikitang kumbaga kukuhanan ng precautionary whole departure order ng ombudsman na mga personalidad na sangkot nga sa flood control mess?
Wala pa tayong kumpirmasyon dyan, Angela. No? Nakabase pa lamang tayo at least doon sa mga development na inilalabas ng Office of the Ombudsman. At actually ito, Angela, no? Itong hiling na precautionary whole departure order ay Sabado, April 25 ito, iniling ng Office of the Ombudsman. No? And on the same day, ito ay na-raffle na siya namang na-assign sa 6th Division ng Sandigan Bayan. Pero may nauna na, of course, na napagbigyan nga ng Sandigan Bayan yung hiling ng Ombudsman na pigilang makalabas ng bansa, which is, ayan nga, si dating House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Pero kabukod dyan, ayon kay Ombudsman Boying Remulla mismo, ay na-freeze na rin yung mga ari-arian nito.
Oo. And then, today din ba natin malalaman yung desisyon o kung magbibigyan sila ng korte?
If we are going to base, Angela, yung naging desisyon kay dating House Speaker Martin Romualdez, na gabi natin nalaman yung desisyon, maaaring ganun din yung asahan natin. No? Pero nakadepende pa rin yan kung aaga o mas gagabi, pero ngayon ay nagpapatuloy na yung pagdinig ng 6th Division para dito sa petisyon na ito.
Alright, thank you for that. Mobile journalist Arles De Los Santos reporting live.
In other news, DOJ Secretary Frederick Vida said authorities still have no confirmed information on the exact whereabouts of former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldi Co. Here's the report.
Justice Secretary Frederick Vida and Chief State Counsel Dennis Chan are in the Czech Republic to facilitate the possible return of former Congressman Zaldi Co. They also met with the Philippine ambassador during their visit. But the key question remains, where is Co? The Department of Justice said it cannot confirm whether he is still in the Czech Republic.
There's no such guarantee.
So
But we need to respect their laws.
So there is a possibility that he may have gone out of Czech.
Possible. We're exploring all things. Basically, ang pinaka natin dyan would be the red notice. But this is actually, pag tinignan nyo itong scenario to, instead of us, di ba, looking at Portugal, looking at other places, no, we know he's in Europe.
The last confirmed information it received on Tuesday was that Ko was in the custody of Czech immigration authorities and police. The DOJ also said it cannot verify reports on whether Ko holds a golden visa or a Portuguese passport. If it is confirmed that Ko is no longer in the Czech Republic, authorities may seek an Interpol Red Notice to help locate and arrest him. However, the request for such a notice has not yet been approved. The DOJ Secretary is set to meet with the Czech Republic's Ministry of Justice to clarify Ko's exact whereabouts. Ko is facing graft and malversation charges in connection with the flood control scandal. He has denied any involvement in corruption. Ko has also previously alleged that President Bongbong Marcos and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez were involved in a controversy.
Well, although yung mga government officials from the President to si DILG Secretary Remulla, when they went around, wala naman sila sinabi directly na who has Ko, where is Ko, di ba? Very
Wala
vague.
daw sila kasi talagang information.
Pero ang
But
problem
what
na
they said is
dito,
undetained.
pero ang problema dito, dapat they did not come out yet if naman sila verified information. They
I
should
think
have
the
let...
word as arrested was used by
that's used by media.
by them.
But I'm just saying...
Not just media, but by
by
them.
them.
We just followed.
Yeah, ang inaano ko lang punto is if hindi pala verified kung ano talaga yung nangyari, they should have just kept quiet muna. And just kung gusto nila, hayaan nila yung international media to come out na somebody was detained or was held.
May impormasyon kami na
But we'll get
dahil
back
sa
to you.
travel and documents ang issue, pero wala pa kami
But everything is
detalye.
unverified.
Oo.
Although wala sila sinabing directly, ang problema, hindi nila sinabi na everything is
Kasi
still unverified.
Yes,
Yan.
if you can remember, si DILG Secretary John Victor Mulya said pa na, within 3 to, sabi niya,
Yeah.
1 week to 3 weeks, makukuha na natin yan. Diba?
Yeah,
So may
yeah.
mga ganun parang assurance na ngayon, even the high value team na pumunta doon ay hindi pa rin sure kung paano nila
And
makukuha.
the problem is na ngayon, everybody's, well, not everybody, but at least people in this side of the fence, yung mga public and the media, are not sure. Asan ba talaga si Saldico, di ba? Is he detained? Is he held? Is he arrested? Is he...
You have to remember,
or-
si Attorney Harry Roque has been saying na, ay, nakausap ko siya, di ba, na parang hindi naman siya detained, yung mga ganyan.
Sabi ng iba kasi baka daw naharang sa sa border, pagkaharang, teka lang, wala kang papeles. They held him for a while and then they let him go. Parang, di ba, pag isang mall ka, may ginawa kang kalokohan, i-hold ka sandali, interviewin ka, lalagyan ka ng papirmahan ka papeles, pwede ka nang umalis. So, hindi natin alam.
Yeah, but we'll see, no? Kasi the government is seeking at least 3 ways, para mapauwi itong
Red
si
notice yung
dating,
isa.
dating kongresista na si Zaldico. One would be through deportation. Second is through Interpol red notice, which is hanggang ngayon wala pa rin tayo, nakabinbin pa rin yung request natin na yun because they're still talking about it, sabi nila, no? But may request na. And then third would be through United Nations anti-corruption, something like that, Corruption Act, or something like that, anti-corruption. Pero sabi nga nila, baka din mahirapan through that channel because wala naman tayong extradition treaty with Czech Republic. But we'll see what's going to happen. For the meantime, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
The husband of Vice President Sara Duterte is set to file criminal complaints against officials of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the Anti-Money Laundering Council, and members of the House Committee on Justice over the alleged disclosure of bank records. In a statement, Attorney Man Scarpio's legal team said the release of the documents may have violated the Anti-Money Laundering Act, Bank Secrecy Law, and Data Privacy Act by exposing confidential financial information. Those named in the complaint include BSP Governor Eli Remalona Jr., AMLAC Executive Director Rodnel Buenaventura, and several others involved in the House probe. Carpio said the alleged leak of financial information was used for political attacks and black propaganda ahead of the 2028 elections. In response, De Lima said impeachment proceedings are not covered by the Secrecy of Bank Deposits Law and maintained that the House panel acted within legal bounds.
Let's now talk to political analyst Dr. Froilan Calilong, who's joining us today. Welcome to News and Views, and thank you for joining us again, Doc.
Thank you so much, Angela, and thank you, Diego, and thank you for having me.
Well, how do you assess the current public response to Vice President Sara Duterte amid the ongoing controversies?
Well, I think we could safely say that the idea presented to us last week, especially by former Senator Trillanes and the Ombudsman and several other officials, was really to create some kind of a catastrophic effect on the part of the Vice President. And I think they try to form what I would consider a stellar cast, primarily because the previous testimonies and the previous witness, Madriaga, I think really failed to demonstrate, or to bring the bombs that they are trying to orchestrate, so as to really pin down and to make it appear that the Vice President is really criminally liable at this point, even if there is no impeachment trial yet. So that's why I think what they did last week was to really assemble this very formidable cast to really cast a doubt on the integrity of the vice president. And I think many of our countrymen, though I think many were surprised to actually have it or to at least get that idea. I think there's still several people who think otherwise, especially when it comes to to the bank secrecy law, to the AMLAC transactions, which normally shows the aggregates. No, I mean it's really the aggregated. That's why there are notions that the amount that is being said around 6.7 billion was really a manifestation of the aggregates. It's not really something that the vice president just simply got from one person or an accumulation from one person giving this money to her, something like that. But rather, it's really an aggregate of all the transactions, all the inflows and the outflows that actually come to her bank accounts. And I think this is what many accountants are also trying to say, especially those that are working in the banking sector.
Well, Doc, aside from talking about yung total, yung aggregates and yung amounts, I think, I don't know, what do you think that would cause that even the Duterte supporters, although they are still solid behind VP Sara, a lot of them already have question marks in their head, even if there's no presumption of guilt yet. It's because sabi ng mga iba daw, parang the initial image of the Dutertes was supposed to be a family of the masses, and just seeing the amounts, kahit sabihin mo lang nag-ipon yan over the years, seeing that may 6.7 billion kayong dumaan, tapos dumadaan tayo sa crisis ngayon, may madaming gutom, madaming hindi na makapaggas, ay sabi ng iba, nagdagdag daw ito sa question mark sa mga pag-iisip ng mga tao. Do you think that is also the case?
Well, possible naman talaga yun, no, Angelo, na talagang nagkaroon ng agam-agam yung ating mga kababayan regarding the integrity. After all, this is really what this quasi-trial is all about. No? It's really to paint a negative impression on the vice president. It's really to make her appear already criminally liable even before the impeachment trial already started, because this is really more for orchestrated control of the narrative. Talagang nangyayari at mangyayari talaga yun. And I think this is really the goal to begin with. No? And kasi kung probable cause ang titignan natin, they could easily come up with a probable cause. They can easily give that to us. In fact, last year when they elevated the impeachment complaint to the Senate, there was not even a trial in the Justice Committee just like this, no? Talagang diretso siya, no? So totoo 'yun, ano, merong mga supporters ang ating ikalawang pangulo that may have been influenced at the very least to think and to contemplate, no? Totoo ba talaga to? Meron ba talagang ganitong pera, kalaking pera yung ating ikalawang pangulo? Pero ang sinasabi rin kasi rito ng mga talagang supporters din naman ng ating ikalawang pangulo at ng Duterte family is that kung totoo man na meron silang ganitong kalaking pera, bakit hindi nakikita sa kanilang lifestyle, sa kanilang wala nga raw silang property o bahay dito sa mga posh subdivisions, hindi kagaya nitong mga miyembro ng ating Kongreso, no? At ilan nga dito ay nakaupo pa mismo dito sa Justice Committee, no? So I think that is the justification coming also from the supporters of the Vice President. But then again, yun namang mga nandun sa kabilang fence, no? Syempre, they're really looking at this issue here para talagang i-justify. Yung ating ikalawang pangulo, meron talagang mga excess baggages at may mga skeletons in the closet na inilalabas nga nitong investigation na to, no? So whether or not it's really used to create a probable cause, I think the narrative that is being spun right now is already casting some kind of doubt and apprehensions from the supporters of the Vice President. But of course, those that are hardline supporters of the Vice President, I think we cannot change their perception about the Dutertes, no matter how strong and how convincing the evidences may be. They will always find ways and means to justify that the Vice President is clean, that she's utterly honest, among other things.
Well, during the course of the proceedings, last will be on the April 29, what are your observations personally as a political analyst, taking away let's say the statements of Ramil Madriaga? As you said, it doesn't hold water. But what about the issue on bank statements, SALN, notice of disallowance, what else? The confidential funds issue. Do you think these evidence will hold water to, finally convict or impeach Vice President Sara Duterte?
I think there's really no change in the positioning of the Congress when it comes to this confidential funds, this COA findings. Primarily because ito rin naman yung naging laman nung nakaraan na reklamo, no. So definitely they're still going to amplify on this, and they're really going to make use of this. Only this time around, yun nga, mas pinalalim nila, no, by trying to come up with this figure, because dati kasi ang ipinag-uusapan lang yung paggasta niya nung 11 days nung 75 million, ano. Pero right now kasi na pumasok na yung billion, I think what the Justice Committee is trying to approximate here is that the Vice President is already in the billions, kasi ang lagi nating iniisip at binabanggit dati, dapat ang pagtuunan natin yung flood control, kasi doon trillions at billions ang usapan Yung maleta diplomacy kasi billions yun And right now that the Vice President na ilabas na nila yung narrative at yung itong ang idea that she also has billions, so she's now being elevated to that league, And again, it may cast a doubt on her integrity, definitely, moving forward in the impeachment. So, ang maganda nga lang dito talaga, Diego, Angela, is ituloy na natin yung impeachment for if they really have the numbers, and if they don't need this orchestrations anymore, they don't need this investigations anymore, ituloy na natin at magbotohan na yung plenaryo para magkaalaman na. Kasi sa totoo lang, ang tingin ko rito, kaya nila ito ginagawa primarily is to condition the minds of the people, especially the constituents, nung mga congressman coming from different districts to vote in favor of the impeachment. Because let's face it, medyo marami kasing mga kongresista ngayon ang medyo nag-iisip-isip, at maaring hindi talaga sila sold completely to the idea of impeachment. But then again, if the public, if the people, if their constituents in their respective districts will be convinced that the Vice President's integrity is really compromised, it's really being put into question, their vote of approving the impeachment complaint will now be at least vindicated or validated by the sentiments of the people coming from their constituents, more importantly. So I think this is what they're trying to project here, and this is really what they're trying to see. And I think with the 2 or 3 investigations that the Justice Committee already conducted, I think they could very well have already established this intent and this purpose. And so ang challenge ko sana is magbotohan na. Para magkaalaman na at para matapos na, ma-elevate na natin sa Senate kung ito talaga yung gustong mangyari, ito talaga yung trajectory nitong issue na to, didali na natin sa kinauukulan para doon magawa na talaga yung proper trial.
Well, talking about finally on my end, talking about casting a doubt sa mga minds ng mga tao, even a little doubts about the integrity of Vice President Sara Duterte, and not taking into account whether matatransmit to sa Senate o hindi. Do you think that doubt that is casted in their minds is enough kung katuluyan sa presidential election to at least make the battle for presidency a little bit more exciting, given yung numbers ni VP Lenny, kahit wala pang declaration, has increased steadily. Meron siyang paangat na numbers. So, do you think this will be a closer fight than expected kung matuloy lumaban ng Vice President?
Well, ako talaga, Angelo, I firmly believe that this is always good for democracy. For as long as we will be able to look into the very nature and the very considerations as to why we actually have these issues, this will always be very good for us, And sinasabi natin that she is the front runner, pero hindi nothing is really cast in stone yet, Hindi pa din ba talaga tayo sigurado rito, Although she has a solid base, I think hindi naman malayo mangyari na mabawasan to, especially if the impeachment case will drag along, And dito natin makikita siguro talaga, yung klase ng ng stronghold nitong mga Dutertes doon sa kanilang mga loyal fan base. If they could really withstand any kind of political storm that will come, including this impeachment. And from there, we will be able to see. But at the end of it all, I believe that if there are several angles and there are several situations that will precipitate or that will give rise to various considerations, I think that will always be good for our democracy. And in the end, ang maganda rito is nabibigyan tayo ng right guidance, the proper options, heading into the polls, no? Para hindi natin makommit yung same mistakes na nangyari sa atin in the past, because definitely we deserve, as a country, as a people, we deserve very good leaders.
Alright, sige. As always, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Dr. Froilan Calilog. Thank you.
Salamat, Dr.
In other news, authorities are still investigating the motive behind a shooting that disrupted the White House Correspondents' Dinner and prompted the evacuation of U.S. President Donald Trump. Here is the report.
U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were at their table during the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington, D.C. when commotion erupted. Secret Service agents quickly moved in and surrounded the first couple. They formed a human shield before evacuating them from the venue. Other officials were seen ducking under the tables as security personnel secured the area. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was also escorted out. The chaos began after multiple gunshots were heard. In a CCTV footage released by Trump, an armed man was seen emerging from a hallway and running past security personnel. He was chased down and later arrested. Authorities identified the suspect as Cole Thomas Allen, a part-time teacher and game developer. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, later went to a residence believed to be linked to the suspect. The motive for the shooting remains unclear, but according to the FBI, the suspect fired at a Secret Service agent. The agent was not injured as the suspect was wearing body armor, preventing the bullet from penetrating. More than 2 hours later, Trump held a press conference.
A man charged a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons, and he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly. He was a guy who looked pretty evil when he was down. They had him down. He was fighting hard. He was in my opinion, a sick person. Who would do that but a sick person?
No one was reported injured in the incident. But due to the disruption, the White House Correspondents' Dinner was rescheduled to next month.
Rising energy costs continue to squeeze local bakeries, forcing some to adjust prices, while others struggle to absorb expenses. Mobile journalist Fatima Banturia with the story.
As the energy crisis goes on, operational costs for local bakeries have increased. Not only do they have to run their ovens on higher electricity costs, Lita says the prices of some baking needs have also increased. This led them to sell bread at a slightly higher price.
Yung buns namin na maliit, instead na 13 pesos, naging 15. Medyo tinaas naman nila yung mga iba kasi nga mataas lahat. Pati mga rin na mabilihin. Yun lang po. Pero okay lang naman yung mga bumibili.
Fortunately, their bakery has received financial assistance from the Manila government, which handed out 25,000 pesos to local bakeries in the city.
Ang pambili ng mga harina, asukal, star margarine.
Lita says they are also planning to bring prices back down. Meanwhile, Vic decided to shoulder the increase in operational costs for her bakery in Quezon City, at least for the time being.
Hopefully naman hindi tumagal to, no? So, we just pray na tumaas ang aming benta para ma-cover up namin yung losses sa benta namin.
However, their sales are not exactly booming amid the crisis, pushing them to save on energy costs.
Medyo matumal din Parang 30% of our sales bumaba. Siguro yun nga, ang tao nagtitipid, wala ring pera, mataas lahat. As much as possible, kung pwede yung pagsalang namin, sabay-sabay na, tuloy-tuloy lang para makatipid din sa LPG. Tapos maaga rin matapos yung production time namin para yung electricity bumaba din.
Vic says they can hold out with their stable prices on bread at least until the end of the second quarter.
And then pag talagang hindi siya talaga bumaba, mag-a-adjust na kami ng aming prices. Basta importante, merong nag-order, merong bibili kami ng ingredients, tapos gagawin namin, mauubos, and then we replenish the ingredients. Ganun, basta i-cycle lang na okay naman, nakaka-survive.
Kapatid Fatima Baduria, We Are One News.
Manila Electric Company or Meralco explained that pass-through charges in electricity bills consist of mandated subsidies and taxes that are remitted to the government through proper agencies. Meralco Corporate Communications Head Joe Zaldariaga said these charges help fund government programs, including subsidies for senior citizens and lifeline consumers, as well as renewable energy initiatives that support cleaner power. He emphasized that Meralco does not earn from these charges, noting that they are implemented across all distribution utilities and electric cooperatives nationwide and not just Meralco. Consumers are also encouraged to seek clarification if they have questions about their billing.
Now to discuss pass-through charges, we have Attorney Maria Corazon Guinness, Director for Legal Service of the Energy Regulatory Commission. Attorney, welcome to our program. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning to both of you, and to all those who are watching this show.
Alright, Attorney, at least para maintindihan ng viewers natin, ano ba talaga ang pass-through charges? Kasi sometimes we get our bills, ang daming nakasulat na charges and walang understanding of what they are. So ano po yun?
Okay. When you say pass-through, pag sinabi natin na pass-through charges, ito yung mga charges na related din sa sa electricity, no, sa consume ng electricity, pero hindi siya napupunta sa Meralco or the distribution utilities, sa provincial man yung mga electric cooperatives. So among all of the charges present in the current bill, it is only the distribution, supply, and metering charges which go to the distribution utilities. Ito lang, itong tatlo lang. Everything else are pass-through. So, yung kagaya nung sa generation, sa transmission, yung mga charges na yon, ibinabayad din doon sa mga generation companies and to NGCP para doon sa transmission. Taxes are also being paid and remitted to the government. Yung mga ibang mga charges naman ay subsidies. Okay, so hindi siya napupunta sa mga distribution utilities din, pero ito ay tulong dun sa mga nangangailangan. Like for example, the lifeline subsidy. It is for the 40s and the marginalized end users. The senior citizens discount, obviously, it goes to the senior citizens. For the universal charges, one for missionary electrification, those goes to subsidizing the consumption of consumers located in the off-grid areas. Kasi yung mga nasa off-grid, yung mga generation companies lang, kukunti lang, kung minsan isa lang. So yung cost ng generation is mataas. So the difference between the true cost of generation and what the customers are paying, yung tinatawag namin na SAGAR, yung subsidized average generation rate, tinukuha doon sa UCME, yung Universal Charge for Missionary Electrification. Yun namang isa, yung what you call UCEC, Universal Charge for environmental charge. Those charges go to NTC for the maintenance of our watersheds. Para laging forested and maintained, para ma-maintain yung ating mga dams.
Attorney, sige,
yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So yun namang iba, yung FIT-all and yung JA-all, these are charges that incentivize those renewable energy developers. They according to Republic Act number 9513, yun yung RE law natin that was issued way back in 2008. These RE developers, in order to increase the market penetration of this RE, they need some sort of incentives. No? So, meron tayong tinatawag na feed-in tariff rate. Ito yung FIT. Yun naman mga pumasok through the Green Energy Auction or GEA. Ito yung GET. So, the difference between the true cost of electricity and what they recover as either FIT or GET, that is taken care of, that is sourced from either the FIT-all or the GEA-all. Yung tawag doon, yung FIT-all, FIT allowance. Yung GEA is GEA allowance.
Okay, attorney, masyado pong maraming mga terminologies.
Yes.
Oo.
Yes.
Para po dun sa ating mga ordinaryong mamamayan, we're talking about po yung pass-through charges. Sabi nyo nga po, hindi naman po ito napupunta talaga sa Meralco. Hindi ito kita ng Meralco. Actually, in fact, this has been collected since 2001, if I'm not mistaken. Ano?
Yes.
Paano po ba yung pagkukompute? No? Ano po ba yung pagko-compute na ginagawa po para dito, specifically sa pass-through charges? Ano po yung mga contributing factors that could cause sa pass-through charges to increase or decrease? Sino po nag-regulate nun?
Okay. Yung kada charge, no, may iba-ibang sistema yan. It is iba-ibang proseso yan. Yung sa generation, the Commission approves power supply agreements. So, nandoon yung kung ano yung rate na ipapasa. Yung generation kasi, the supply of electricity used by distribution utilities to convey electricity to their consumers could either be coming from power supply agreements or purchased through the WESM, yung wholesale electricity spot market natin. So, if these two charges mixed, ito yung tinatawag namin na blended rate. So, ito yung ipinapasa. Okay. Yung second naman, yung sa ancillary services for the transmission, ina-approve din namin. It's also another kind of power supply agreement, but this time, it is between NGCP and the generation company. Yun namang government taxes, may specific percentage. It's 12%. So, ang sabi, sales of generation, transmission, and distribution are subject to VAT. So, you just have to impose 12% on the total cost of each of these line items. And then, yung universal charges naman, yung universal charges for missionary electrification, and environmental fund, there are also applications filed by NTC, and we also approve those. Same with the FIT allowance at saka yung GEA-all. So these are all separate applications that are filed. Yung senior citizens, it's imposed by law. So yung process na lang ang tinitignan namin, ang siniset namin sino yung entitled, and same goes through with the lifeline rate. Nagbago lang kasi recently in 2021 those who are entitled to the lifeline subsidy. Before, it was based purely on consumption. So in the Meralco franchise area, if you were consuming 100 kilowatt hours or less, then you enjoy some sort of a subsidy. But then, in 2021, the government changed its policy. Ang sabi na lang, dapat ang tulungan lang natin ay yung talagang nangangailangan ng tulong. So, the policy change from pure consumption into the sectors of society who really need it the most. Yun na yung 40s at saka yung marginalized end users.
Attorney, siyempre, ang tanong ng marami, no? Kasi alam naman natin dito sa Philippines, madami tayong social classes, iba-iba ang income level. Ang tanong nila, paano ba kino-compute nyo yung pass-through charges na yun, di ba? Is it depends on kung ano yung konsumo mo or kung ano yung location ng land? Kasi may mga ibang places na yung community is more upscale, iba ang way daw of charging, yan ang sabi nila.
Hindi naman. Kasi pag nag-approve kami, let's say for example of power supply agreements, meron kasing variable doon, yun yung fuel cost. So, yun yung monthly na nag-change. So let's say for example, ang fuel mo is coal. So the fuel cost will be dependent on the prices of coal in the world market. So that is something that the commission confirms once every 3 years. Kaya nga kung minsan nagkakaroon tayo ng either mga refund o kaya collection to determine kung tama ba yung ipinasa na charges sa atin. So there's that mechanism. We cannot do a monthly approval. So that's the kind of mechanism that we have done in order to check whether what has been passed on to the consumers are the correct charges.
Siguro mas maganda, mas mabigyan ng
More time.
and saka information yung mga consumers natin. Kasi the reason why we're talking about this is because nagkaroon nga ng mga usap-usapan sa social media tungkol dito sa pass-through charges at ngayon pa lang natin to na ipapaintindi sa kanila. But for the meantime, maraming salamat po, Attorney, sa inyong oras. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Attorney Maria Corazon Hines, Director for Legal Service of the Energy Regulatory Commission. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Let's now bring in our mobile journalist Merimon Reyes for the latest over at the Senate. Merimon, what's new over at the Senate?
Angela, Diego, good morning. Natong linggo, ibinunyag ni Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson na meron daw ilang mga grupong nagpaplano ng isang people power revolution na suportado ng militar. Ito raw ay sa kabilang or sa kasagsagan ng mga issue na kinasasangkutan ng mga lider ng gobyerno, kabilang dyan si Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, pati si Vice President Sara Duterte. And ang nakuhang info daw ni Senator Ping is mga retired officials ito na kumakalap ng suporta from the AFP. But then again, mangilan-ngilan lang daw ang nakikitang nare-recruit nito para patalsikin nga yung lider ng gobyerno. And sa contacts ni Senator Ping sa PNP, wala pa naman daw detected signs na itong effort, yung destabilization effort, ay nag-gain na ng traction. So kumpiyansa si Senator Ping na hindi raw ito magtatagumpay. Pero mariin niya ulit na sinasabi na yung public anger daw, yung galit ng publiko sa mga corruption issues or scandals, maaari naman daw itong i-address sa mga pamamaraan na pasok o nakapailalim sa Constitution or saligang batas ng bansa. Pero kung may mga ebidensyang magpo-point sa mga opisyal na ito, halimbawa sa Pangulong Bongbong Marcos, hindi naman daw sila magiging ligtas sa ginagawang investigasyon ng Senado ng Blue Ribbon Committee Report. Pero ninunote kasi dito rin ni Senator Ping na yung mga alegasyon ay dapat dumaan sa formal na proseso at dapat nasasabi ito o ibinibigay under oath. Kaya nung una, dismissed yung mga claims muna ni former Congressman Zaldico kasi posted ito online at hindi niya naman daw sinabi under oath kaya wala pa raw itong evidentiary value or weight pagdating doon sa investigasyon. Pero yun nga sinasabi niya, dati sinasabi niya kay Zaldico, lumapit daw sa consulate kung saan siya nagtatago para raw formally ma-authenticate yung affidavit niya pero hindi ito natuloy. So still they're watching out pa sa kung ano ang mangyayari sa mga susunod. Pero tungkol doon sa Blue Ribbon Committee Report, ang sabi naman ni Senator Ping, ngayon kasi 6 pa lang yung pirma niya So hindi pa ito mailakad o masalang sa session, hindi pa maipagpatuloy yung pagdinig ng Blue Ribbon sa flood control scandal, may hinahanda na rin na Chairman's Progress Report si Senator Ping. At ang nilalaman nito is yung findings din doon sa Partial Blue Ribbon Committee Report. Attached dito yung mga documentations and evidences and mababypass na ito yung kakailanganin pang pirma ng Blue Ribbon Committee Report kasi sinasabi Senator Ping, 8 hearings na raw yung nangyari, kailangan na raw malaman ng publiko kung ano na nga ba yung naging findings and ito ay magpapatuloy, makakatulong din daw sa case build-up pa na ginagawa rin ng DOJ pati ng Office of the Ombudsman. So ngayon, inaantabayanan pa natin yung magiging schedule nito pero by May 4 kung sakali pwede nang maisalang sa sesyon itong Chairman's Progress Report. Balik sa inyo.
All right, thank you for the updates, mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Pagasa warns against possible dry spells and drought conditions as it issues an El Nino alert. Now, to discuss this, we have Pagasa weather specialist Charmaine Barilla. Charmaine, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. And ma'am, welcome din po sa inyo.
Alright, Charmaine, ano itong development na ito about yung the peak of this El Nino phenomenon and how long will this last?
Yes po, no? So, as of this month ay nag-declare nga po tayo ng El Nino Watch at nakikitaan po natin ng 75% chance na maging isang ganap na El Nino itong nakikita natin, and possible po yan during the months of June, July, August. And maaaring mag-peak po ito during the last quarter nitong taon, October, November, December, and maglalast po up until first quarter next year.
Ano pong areas yung makikita po natin na magkakaroon po talaga ng mga matinding tagtuyot, no? Or yung dry spells and drought kung tawagin?
Yes, po ngayong pong buwan ay malaking bahagi na po ng ating bansa ang nakaranas ng dry spell, dry condition out to drought. Pinakamalala nga po dito sa may northern and central Luzon kung saan most provinces po ay nakararanas na ng dry spell hanggang drought conditions. And maaari pa po na mas grumabe itong condition na to dahil by next month, nakikitaan pa rin natin ng below normal rainfall dito sa may northern tsaka central Luzon.
Charmaine, that's what I wanted to ask you. No? How will this El Nino alert affect yung transition natin into yung rainy season? And I understand during El Nino kasi mababawasan ang occurrences ng pag-ulan, pero pag may ulan daw, possible na mas malakas.
Yes po, no? So, tama po yung nasabi nyo ay mababawasan yung ating mga bagyo. May mga areas po, especially dito sa eastern side, ang medyo bawas yung mga pag-ulan. However, kapag itong El Nino condition ay sumabay sa pagsisimula ng ating habagat, expect po natin na mas malalakas yung mga pag-ulan, especially yung nasa western section po ng ating bansa. And napapansin po natin, based sa mga studies na mas kumukonti yung bagyo, however, ay mas malalakas nga dahil yung pinagmumulan po nila ay mas malayo sa ating bansa. Dito siya sa may Central and East Pacific region kung saan mas magiging mainit yung karagatan. Ibig sabihin po, mas malayo sa atin, mas matagal yung time na maaari itong magstay sa dagat at mas mataas yung tsansa na patuloy pang lumakas kapag tumama po sa ating kalupaan.
Miss Charmaine, over the weekend, napakainit po talaga, no? Pero may mga parte po ng bansa natin, particular sa may bandang norte, sa may Pampanga, ang bumuhos po ng napakalakas ng ulan kahapon. Can you explain us ano pong phenomenon po yung nangyari yesterday?
Yes, kahapon naman po ay more on easterlies pa rin yung ating prevailing weather condition. And yung mga ganyang pag-ulan, especially paghapon, more on panandalian lang po yan. And for today, ang nakikitaan lamang po natin na meron tayong mga cloudy skies with scattered rains and thunderstorms ay over dito sa may Sorsogon, northern and eastern Samar, maging dito sa may southern Leyte, Dinagat Island, tsaka Surigao del Norte. And by tomorrow up until Wednesday, more on partly cloudy to cloudy skies, so generally fair weather. So expect po na magiging mas mainit sa malaking bahagi ng ating bansa. And by Thursday to Friday, meron po ulit tayo nakikita ng mga paulan na naman dito sa may silangang bahagi ng Visayas at Mindanao.
Very quickly na lang po, Miss Charmaine, kung ngayon po ay makakaranas tayo ngayong taon na to ng super El Nino or strong El Nino as they would say, kailan po papasok yung kumbaga pinaka-rainy season naman ng bansa natin? Is it going to be still June or medyo uurong to?
Yes po, ganun pa rin naman po yung nakikita natin. Usual pa rin po yung last part ng May and up until first week of June. Yan pa rin po yung palagi natin nakikita ng onset pa rin ng pag-ulan natin.
Alright, thank you for that. Pag-asa weather specialist Charmaine Barilla.
Yes.
Minalungaw National Park in Nueva Ecija draws weekend crowds seeking an affordable summer escape. Mobile journalist Daniel Daya reports.
El Nido of the North. Here in Minalungaw National Park, some of our kapatids are beating the summer heat. Cliff diving, sightseeing, and a quick escape. These are just some of the reasons why tourists are heading to Nueva Ecija this summer. And while fuel prices remain high, some still choose to push through with their weekend plans.
Mas pinili namin ditong ng holiday namin since bukod sa mas malapit na siya, tipid sa gasolina, lalo na ngayon, mas mahal ang gasolina. Ito na yung chance namin makapag-unwind na magkakaibigan and magkaka-workmate.
For many, it's a trip they say is worth every peso. especially for those looking for a more affordable getaway.
This is my first time going here and honestly, sobrang relaxing nga as mentioned by Riri. And then first time ko kasi mag cliff dive ba tawag doon? Cliff dive for 3 times. Yay! 3 times. And sobrang saya.
We cannot deny the fact that the prices of gas is high, but going here in Minalungaw is worth it. Every penny that you spend to your gas.
But for others, enjoying a trip like this still comes with careful budgeting.
And naisipan namin na pumunta dito para ma-experience, makita yung lugar. Maganda naman, kaya lang talaga kailangan ng pera kanda labas mo.
Nakitawad nga kami sa mga fees sa LGU kung pwedeng bawas yung mga fees.
And it's not just the visitors feeling the impact. Even park officials say that tourism has yet to fully recover.
Sa ngayon, yung pagkakataas, talagang malaki epekto sa amin. Daan tao naman yung pumupunta. Pero hindi ka mukha na libo talaga. Basta sa isang linggo, ang pinakaraing tao, Sabado at Linggo lang.
And for local vendors, more tourists simply means more hopeful sales.
Okay naman, nakakaraos naman kahit paano, nakakabenta. Medyo pag Sabado at Linggo, malakas.
For now, tourist activity remains weekend-driven, with local businesses and officials hoping for a more consistent flow of visitors, not just on weekends.
Ako naman nananawagan sa buong publiko na sana kahit mataas yung ating diesel, sana po tangkilikan yung pumunta sa aming lugar, sa Minalungaw National Park. Ginagampanan naman ng samahan yung talagang pag-aayos at paglilinis ng parke para sakali mang bumaba ng gustong diesel o gasolina at bumalik yung mga tao, ganun pa rin yung aming lugar.
Kapatid Mobile journalist Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
The UST Golden Tigresses advanced to the next step ladder phase after eliminating the FEU Lady Tamaraws in the UAAP Season 88 Women's Volleyball Tournament. UST bounced back from a first set loss to defeat FEU in 4 sets. The Golden Tigresses will next face number 3 seed Adamson Lady Falcons on Wednesday, with the winner advancing to take on National University for a spot in the finals. Meanwhile, the LSU Lady Spikers secured an outright finals berth after sweeping the elimination round.
MediaQuest has unveiled its new MVP studio in Mandaluyong City, a cutting-edge venue that will serve as the new home of Vibe and other live entertainment shows. Mobile journalist Ray Vicente has the report.
There's a new home for Vibe and other shows. The new MVP studio opened its doors last Saturday, April 25, for staff and programs of MQuest, Signal, and TV5. The state-of-the-art broadcast studio can accommodate up to 800 audience, with its wide space fit for different performances.
Itong studio na to is very flexible. It can be for any other live event. It can be for games. It can be for other shows that will require an audience and will require live presentation. Nakaka-proud that especially during this time for companies, for MVP to invest in something like this for the entertainment industry, for us, for giving a place for artists to perform. It's a wonderful commitment to entertainment.
To officially open the new studio, a mass and home blessing were held, followed by the fan-powered OPM Countdown Show Vibes live performance. CEO and President of MQuest echoed this step as a big investment, home for different Signal live contents including Vibe.
It's a big investment for MediaQuest actually, but we believe in making it a home for Filipino content, live content, and one of them is Vibe. Vibe is a production which we'd like to be for OPM music, the young OPM music, a place where people can show their talent.
To welcome a new era for Vibe, a major Vibe party was held with its jocks, OPM artists, and cast of upcoming TV5 shows moving to a bigger stage from the Meralco Theater to the MBP Studio. However, MQuest CEO and President said that this is just the start, as more developments will happen in the newly opened studio.
There's a lot of development that can happen in this current location. And this one is a commitment to making live entertainment really an experiential process for everyone.
The new MVP facility is located just behind the TV5 Media Center in Mandaluyong City. Kapatid Ray Vicente, we are One News.
Silipin nga natin yan mamaya.
Baka rin.
Diyan lang yan
Alright, that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I forgot my name. I'm Angelo Castro III. Kapatid, we are One News.
All sides, all the time.